Hey YouTube, this is Bill. This is a system that I'm not going to call portable. I just put it together as a trial, and it sounds incredible, but it is not your typical battery operated portable system. But it is all battery operated. So let me go through it. The reason it's in this hallway, this is not the normal way I would recommend playing these speakers so close together, is my other rehearsal space is being used for other purposes, but I'm about to break this down and move it. So I want to go make this video. Before I do that, introduce you to it. So the basic components are, I would say the main component is the speaker you see in the middle, the JBL MK2. I've done a number of videos on that column array. Then I'm using a pair of Mackie Thump Go's. All three of these speakers are all battery powered. And then I'm using a mixer, which is a new purchase for me. I just did a short video on it. It's called the Soundcraft Signature 10. And that's not battery powered. I'm plugging that into an external battery source. And I'm using for my external subwoofer the ELX 12-inch. It's called the EXL 200-SP subwoofer. And again, that's being run off a external battery pack. And just for kicks, I gave this a try also. And that is, I used a fourth speaker as kind of like a surround speaker in the rear, and the old trusty Bose S1Pro. So tucked away, there's the external power source. It's called the Expert Power 400, puts out 400 watts, and it's powering the mixer, and it's powering the subwoofer with no problem. And the subwoofer is, I believe it puts out 1400 watts peak. And this external power has no issues running it. You could also run the Bose Sub 1, which is another lightweight subwoofer I own. Either one is a great pairing for this system. So going over the rationale behind this system. So the heart of the system is the JBL MK2. It's a very nice hi-fi sounding mids, emphasis on mids speaker. It also has a fairly good low end. What I found, its one downside is the top end is slightly rolled off. And I found I could alleviate that problem to a certain extent using the EQ, but it's kind of a hassle each time for each different song to be adjusting EQ. So I tried these Mackie speakers, and they're also battery powered, and they have a very, very nice high end. They have frequencies on the top end that the JBL doesn't have. So I'm kind of using them as an EQ. I know it's it's not common usage, but it's really working for me. So I'm able to boost the Mackies and fill in the high end and adding to that smooth mid-range of the JBL MK2. It's just a really great combination. So that's the rationale behind it. And then I purchased the mixer to do the same, to add EQ, and the EQ of the Soundcraft really has an excellent mid-range. I said the JBL has a nice mid-range, but certain tracks need a little more boost. And again, instead of going to the JBL and boosting the EQ on that unit, you can use it from a mixer. Of course, once I go with a mixer, there goes the whole topic of portability, because now you see all the cables. So this isn't your typical system, and it's not my typical portable system, and I'm not recommending that, but it does sound incredible. So I'm using the JBL MK2 EQ on flat. So I'm doing all my EQing from the mixer. So this is the mixer setup, how I have it routed. On the master slider, that is the two Mackies. And then on auxiliary number 1, I have the JBL MK2. On auxiliary number 2, I have the subwoofer, the EV subwoofer. And on auxiliary number 3, I have the rear surround speaker, or the the ambient speaker, whatever you want to call it, and that would be the Bose S1Pro. This system has a very nice FX reverb. I'm adding some slight reverb to some of the tracks I'm playing. It adds a nice, interesting effect. And the mixer has the ability to use a quick press button. I'm using a Fender switch, foot switch, and you can A/B it with and without the FX engaged. So that's really nice and fast. Some subwoofers, studio subwoofers, and especially also have that same ability where they'll give you a cutoff pedal or button where you can use your foot and A/B with and without the subs. That's usually found with a studio sub. This particular EV sub I'm using isn't a studio sub, so it doesn't have that ability. But it does have an app with a mute, so that's something you can do if you want to do the same thing. That's pretty much it. I have all the controls at my fingertips, and it's a lot of fun. If you like to tweak, not a lot of people just like to listen to music. I like to be able to bring up the highs, bring up the lows, and for the next track, I might want to lower the lows. So it's not something a lot of people do. I know a lot of people will have a subwoofer, especially a home theater subwoofer, and they set it once and they leave it, and that's it. I'm constantly tweaking it and raising it and lowering the sub level, especially to my taste for the particular track I'm listening to. I'm going to give you a little demonstration of the bass capability and how I can adjust it. The track is by Brian Bromberg, Elephants on Ice Skates. It's one of my tracks that I use for testing bass. I can't play the actual track for copyright reasons on YouTube, so I'm just gonna play just the bass by itself. I hope you heard that. That's the type of bass is something you can't get from a small column array speaker like the 10-inch woofer in the JBL Eon Mark II. Even though the bass is very good and tight from the 10-inch subwoofer, but it's nothing like a standalone subwoofer. So that's why I'm running it separately. And I like to run my subwoofers from an aux out, and I demonstrated how I can raise or lower the sub accordingly to the track. So on this track, I'm going to start with the JBL Mark II only, and then I'm going to bring in the other speakers. Beforehand, the iPad or my source is at 95%. I have it one click down from 100. I have my gain set on the channel I'm running my source from right before clipping. So here we go, starting with the JBL Mark II. Then I'm going to add the subwoofer, and then I'm going to bring in the master slider, which will be the Mackie's, and you should hear some nice crisp high end added there. And then at the very end, I'll add the Bose S1Pro. I don't know if you'll hear too much of a difference. It does add ambience in the rear. It's just kind of like a quadraphonic effect. If I had to leave out one speaker of this, it would be that speaker. Just carrying 4 speakers is pretty tough. So let's give it a try, starting with the JBL Mark II. another shot of the Bose S1Pro that I have behind me. And that wraps it up. I hope you liked the sound demo. It sounds incredible. I don't know how it sounds on the YouTube speakers you're listening to on. That changes everything, of course. But I've been working on this system for a couple of months now, building upon it, trying different combinations. Of course, it's a modular system. So if you just need one speaker, you can go with your Bose S1Pro. That would be the fastest get up and go. Or you can use one Mackie. If you want to add two Mackies, that would add more fullness. Then you can add the third JBL MK2, or you can play just with the JBL MK2 by itself. A lot of combinations. Adding the subwoofer makes things completely different. It's a lot of fun playing with it, and adding the mixer just adds that other dimension. But I don't want to hear anybody flaming saying, I thought this was a portable system, because I said that in the beginning. This is no way something that I would actually think of something to be portable. This is a lot of hassle to take all these speakers and stands and external battery power, but I'm gonna say it does sound incredible. Okay, this is Bill. Hope you enjoyed. Later.